I never really thought that the whole get a girl from the village talk was still there, but seeing it in an article in this day and age, damn, this brings back so many memories and also reminds me how dumb some people can be. But, anyways, let me start things off so that I can get into the meat of the topic. Welcome to Breaktime on West Side, your number one Breaktime podcast, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. The man on the mic is Sir Denver B. The show is Raw Zone, and I have a story. Now, I was on the internet not too long ago, and I was on WhatsApp not too long ago, and some guy decided to share an article from a while back, which was titled, "Shagging Nairobi Girls is like sleeping with the devil." Now, the caption that comes right next to it is, "Men are paying too much money for useless, overutilized goods in the name of seeking a classy woman." Now, since this article is bound to have some level of love, sex, and relationships pointed out, of which this is something that is supposed to relate to men, of course I just had to jump on it. Of course I had to. Now, I'm not gonna lie, whatever the hell that was written here just sounded either like garbage to some people, sounded like it was deeply misogynistic to others, but to me, I feel like it was probably best served up as satire/comedy, because that's exactly what it feels like to me. It actually feels like it is nothing but absolute satire. Now, I'm going to read for you the bits that I found to be particularly interesting, because I feel like those are the parts that are worth talking about, and also because it's an entire article, I don't want to read the entire thing. But I will try and read as much of it as I possibly can. Now, let me start from the beginning, where she says, and I quote, "Young men are suffering under this lot of narcissistic, selfish women who have turned relationships into an occupation. These lazy, entitled women do not want to work for their money, and as soon as you show interest in them, you already owe them rent. They would milk your pocket till it bleeds. Young man, your mother didn't send you to Nairobi for this. When the community came together to pool resources and sent you to university, they expected you to study hard and bring a wife home, not a demon-nailed woman who cannot stir a decent pot of ugali. Listen, if you did not inherit a vast amount of wealth from your rich parents, if you are not a government thief or a drug dealer, please, when you go home this December, find yourself a village girlfriend or wife. That is the only thing that would save you in this city. See, in this city, an average earning Kenyan man spends up to 2/3 of his income on his Nairobi girlfriend. Before you lay with her, she wants you to buy the dress and sponsor the hair that she'll show up with at the date, Ubers to and fro. She wants to get drunk on the most expensive liquor available and wants to down a whole buffet with her broke ass but setting standards committee. And while she shamelessly chops your money at the club, your fellow co-principals in the relationship will be texting her endlessly, then she would be giggling back and whispering to her girlfriends about it." End quote, at least for now. Okay, so when I read this particular bit, in as much as there's quite a lot that's been mentioned there are a couple of things that I got as a takeaway. The whole having to fund her before you shag her, then spending 2/3 of your salary on your girlfriend, or I guess maybe just any woman, for the average earning Kenyan guy. And here's the thing, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me and my friends that have clearly not gone through this, but that sounds like a load of bull. And maybe she's just exaggerating it for, I guess, literary satire or some shit, whatever it is that people call it. Because if a guy is spending 2/3 of his salary money on a woman, regardless of whether he makes nothing or a boatload of cash, he probably has bigger issues than just the woman, or it's someone that he's very sure will be a ride or die, and they're pretty much trying to build each other up and shit. Like, that's the only justification for you using 2/3, hell, even a half of your salary on your girlfriend. Especially when you know very well that there's a pretty good chance that you might not have any possible future with this babe. You just supposedly like her in the moment. Like, that is paramount to stupidity for us guys. If you as a guy go and you start telling your other dudes that you spent that much on a babe, the first thing that your dudes are gonna tell you is that you were stupid. And yes, you might admit it and we might laugh about it, but let's be very honest. That's the first thing that your homies are gonna tell you. And if you even attempt to try that again on another shorty, there's a pretty good chance that the niggas are gonna look at you and be like, "My guy, after the first bit of stupidity, you still haven't learned that shit." Because we as men know if you're spending that much on a babe, she better be a keeper, otherwise you are genuinely wasting money for nothing. But all this shit about the homies aside, my bigger issue with what it is that she's saying is something that I'm even going to mention a little bit later, because she goes on to start exalting the village girl in an interesting yet slightly insultive manner while busy taking shots at the city girl. Now, let me continue reading. So it says, and I quote, "You are paying too much money for useless overutilized goods in the name of seeking a classy woman. With the village girl, you won't even need much. Buy her a lollipop and the relationship takes off. Buy her a cold soda and she worships the ground you walk on. And if you buy her biker shorts, bas, you've won her forever, man. She isn't mesmerized by men who drive because she gets motion sickness during travel anyways. Her hair is plaited in simple cornrows and she might only try braids during the Christmas holiday. She doesn't wear fancy shoes because her toes are spread wider than a paper fan. Her only budget during a date are those light green patapatas, a colorful kamisi, a branded t-shirt and a kitenge skirt, and she is ready. Buy her Fanta and we see her sip it for almost 3 hours as she wants to savor every drop due to scarcity. If your shag's house has since been turned into a goat shed, she's okay to have a quick one in the thicket, thus saving you a lot. You could literally leave her without a cent, but when you come back home in the evening, a nice meal of ugali and wild veggies will greet you. You will both eat that and she will be content." End quote. Now, of course, the article does go on to talk about love making and how supposedly the village girl is more flexible and shit, of which I'm gonna be very honest. When I did think about talking about that point, it just didn't really make sense, because I guess most people might not really notice a difference, because I don't think there's that much of a difference with shagging a village babe versus a city babe. Maybe the morning might be different, and the names that she'll call you might be different, or the language that she uses might be different, but for the most part it should be pretty much the same thing. Although, now that I think about it, yes, maybe the city babe might give you the Gawk Gawk 3000 because she knows that there is a Gawk Gawk 3000, and the village babe might try if she's really into it, but there's a pretty good chance that she'll just go ahead and just sit on it. But either way, I don't think I have enough experience to comment on that. So let me just go back to this whole second portion that I was to talk about. And the thing is, in as much as the village girl is being talked about in such good light, like, it's being done in such an insultive manner, where it's like the village babe is being underestimated and overestimated at the same exact time, but it just makes them sound better because they're being used to take a shit on the city babe. Like, it's an interesting way to do it, and I'm not saying that it hasn't been done before. Like, 50 Cent did it a bit of a while back when he was busy talking about how he's going to ditch the American babes and come for an African one because they're a lot more low maintenance, and you can pretty much I don't know, pay for a dowry by like buying her a box of water or some shit. But to kind of come back to it, like, I feel like people with the whole Kienyeji versus broiler debate, the whole city girl versus village girl debate, which is kind of the same thing, like, I feel like there's a lot that they get wrong. And I feel like at the end of the day, this article should be treated as satire and not necessarily the truth, because there's so much that comes in the name of errors or was just used to just push for clout when you sort of read it and sort of really try to internalize what's being said. Because the generalized city babe behavior that is being spoken about here, yes, there are city girls that do this shit and they're all on their hot girl summer vibes and shit, but it doesn't represent every single babe that's in the city. Like, that's very misleading to think that. And if you do actually believe that this is how most or all babes are, then you're very, very highly mistaken. This actually represents a much smaller subset than quite a lot of people think. And I guess if you are a man and you do think that this is what represents quite a huge number of babes, then there's a pretty good chance that either you haven't stepped out very much or you don't have a diversified group of people that you've interacted with. And most of your interactions involve you going to the club or chilling with people that usually discuss the same exact shit. Because, to be very honest, there's a lot of good city babes out here. The problem is people assume that village babes are all good. And yet you guys forget that the same TikTok that city babes look at is the same exact TikTok that village babes will look at as well. So whatever nasty habits can be picked up from the quote-unquote social medias of the world, the village babes will pick up on it as well. The only difference is it's not as publicized as the city babes. So you find that the village babes can be shagged by boda riders, classmates, village neighbors and shit, and no one will know jack shit about it because people keep shit over there on the hush. And as long as other people don't know about it, you can do your shit silently and no one will know jack shit and people will still think you're a virgin. And of course, there's gonna be a couple of stories that might leak, and if you actually go and you sit and you listen to villagers, you will actually find out that there are some cases of infidelity and some cases of women in the village sleeping around that usually end up traveling around the town. And that should tell you that some of these babes are for the streets even though they're in the village. So, Maram roads and shit, dusty hoes and shit. But to kind of conclude all of this, because time is pretty much not on our side, I'm not trying to say this to justify the city girls that are gonna be hoeing out there or to, speak against village babes that might be good. It's pretty much to highlight the fact that there's good babes in the city and there's good babes in the village. At the end of the day, it comes down to her values. You cannot keep judging every woman simply based off of where she's based and her ability to cook. Although actually, wait, no, fuck that shit. You should be able to judge her on her ability to cook. She should be able to cook just the same way you're supposed to be able to provide. And that means you don't have to be the absolute best or at the absolute top of your game, but you should be able to do it to a pretty good degree. Or maybe I'm just saying this shit because I'm hungry. Either way, I want your thoughts on it. How do you feel about all of this? DMs are open on IG, on Facebook. It is at Breaktime on my side. On Twitter, it is at Bagaka the D. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.